According to multiple outlets, the Trump administration has circulated an internal memo detailing plans to track down hundreds of thousands of migrant children who entered the United States without their parents. Importantly, this memo has not been released to the public, so I'm reporting based on the information that has been reported by various news outlets that have seen the memo. I have not personally seen it. The memo is reportedly written by ICE and titled, quote, Unaccompanied Alien Children Joint Initiative Field Implementation, end quote. The memo's stated initiative is to ensure migrant children are not victims of human trafficking or victims of other forms of exploitation, and consequently, it directs immigration agents to track down migrant children who entered the United States without their parents. The memo reportedly states that the children will be served a notice to appear in immigration court or deported if deportation orders were pending against them. According to the memo, ICE has collected data on unaccompanied minors and has created 3 groups: flight risk, public safety, and border security. The priority will be to track down flight risk minors, including those who have received orders of deportation for missing court hearings. The memo outlines 4 phases of implementation, with the first phase, the planning phase, to have already commenced on January 27th, but it does not provide a start date for enforcement operations. To give you some numbers as to how many unaccompanied minors have entered the United States in recent years, since 2022, there have been just under 425,000 CBP encounters with unaccompanied minors nationally, with roughly 422,000 of those encounters happening at the U.S.-Mexico border. So let's talk about what the law says. Under federal law, migrants who have exhausted their legal options to stay in the country can be removed even if they are children. The government typically prioritizes adults, especially those adults with criminal records, but children can be deported as well. When an unaccompanied minor is apprehended, they're usually taken into Office of Refugee Resettlement Custody. From there, they're typically released to sponsors while immigration authorities weigh their case to remain in the country. Now, you may remember during the vice presidential debate, Vice President Vance said that DHS has effectively lost 320,000 children. More recently, in December, Trump's incoming border czar, Tom Homan, similarly said the U.S. cannot find 300,000 migrant children who he says could have been lured into forced labor and sex trafficking. Those claims stem from a 2024 report that I had previously reported on from the Office of the Inspector General that found 32,000 unaccompanied minors who had illegally entered the U.S. have not shown up for immigration court, and more than 291,000 never even received a summons to appear in court between the years 2019 and 2023. The report stated that ICE could not monitor the location and status of all unaccompanied migrant children or initiate removal proceedings as needed. The report reads, quote, during our ongoing audit to assess ICE's ability to monitor the location and status of unaccompanied children who were released or transferred from the custody of DHS and HHS, we learned ICE transferred more than 448,000 UCs, unaccompanied children, to HHS from fiscal years 2019 to 2023. However, ICE was not able to account for the location of all UCs who were released by HHS and did not appear as scheduled in immigration court. ICE reported more than 32,000 UCs failed to appear for their immigration court hearings from fiscal years 2019 to 2023. End quote. So that report was a big talking point for Republicans during the election cycle, and this new internal memo is in line with those concerns. Now, there's a parallel storyline here that the Trump administration had issued a stop work order to the Acacia Center for Justice last week. And even though it has since been rescinded, that order has since been rescinded, I do want to talk about it because quite a few of you had questions about it. So the Acacia Center for Justice has a federal contract with the Office of Refugee Resettlement to provide legal services for unaccompanied migrants younger than 18 that were either in the office's custody or had been released. Under federal law, migrants are not guaranteed the right to free legal representation like citizens are, but in the past, federal funds have allowed nonprofit groups like Acacia to provide lawyers for children. So last week, on Tuesday, the Trump administration had issued this stop work order to Acacia. But as of Friday, the administration rescinded that order. Acacia said they received notice from the administration that it can immediately resume work providing representation and legal access services to unaccompanied children.